So a little bit of a surprise overnight. There was actually a little bit of rain. Throughout actually the entire night is just kind of sprinkling gently for quite a while. And so it made the ground a heck of a lot more colorful. And maybe that's something I should focus my attention on, because I don't think I'm going to be getting the sort of reflected light that I was hoping for. Got to have clear skies, and as you can see behind me, well, that's not going to happen for a while. Got a lot of clouds out there. Another little surprise, and you probably won't be able to see it too much, but back behind me here on that hillside over there, there's actually a dusting of snow. So it's a little on the chilly side. It doesn't feel super spring-like, but maybe this is normal for this area. But there is a photo that I was hoping to try to at least compose today, maybe expose some film, but it's one that'd be strongest if there was some reflected light. And so I think I'll scout out that scene this morning. But after that, maybe spend some time looking for some subjects that would look pretty good with regard to overcast skies, maybe some of the sediments that have some wonderful color to them, some stuff along those lines. But I do want to be productive. I do want to expose my first sheet of film here at some point. But I also know that there's a bigger storm on the way here pretty soon. So a lot of areas like where I am right now would be off limits if that's the case, because there's lots of washes you have to cross, and definitely not a place you'd want to be if we get some actual heavy rain. But so far it's just been a really, really light, gentle rain. Well, some time has passed since doing the last video, and I came over here to one of the areas that I was looking at yesterday and figuring it might make for a pretty good subject. It's this wall that you see back behind me, a very clean looking sandstone wall, and some nice little trees up at the base of it. I think a vertical photo might help kind of show the scale of it, with mostly the wall but a little bit of the plants down at the bottom just to kind of anchor the shot. But the light right now isn't so good for it. But that didn't stop me from coming here and setting up my camera. Main reason being that I just want to get a composition on the scene just to kind of see how it looks. And I'm pretty happy with the composition I came up with. It's pretty simple. But the light I'm going to need for this photo is going to be something that happens in the morning on a cloudless morning. So basically I want to have it so the wall back behind me is all in shade, and the light source is primarily this area back up here. This right here would be illuminated by sunlight, which is send that nice, soft, warm light back into the shadows back over here. And I'm perfectly fine not taking a photo today because I know that the conditions aren't quite right for that. But at least I found a composition, I found a location, and I know when the best light's going to be. I know what kind of weather conditions I need. So that's the sort of thing I just kind of put in the back of my mind as far as in future days, I know that I can be productive by taking that photo. Another thing too, in the past I've sort of talked about avoiding iconic locations. Yes, I've photographed many iconic locations, but I try to avoid some of them because I don't feel like I'm finding a subject that I can relate to as much as something I kind of discover on my own. And so many of my favorite photos have been ones of sort of commonly overlooked subjects, or maybe things on the ground that people might walk right past, but I find some reason that that subject really stands out to me. And I think part of finding those sort of subjects is having a sense of curiosity, and let your curiosity be your guide as far as finding some of these subjects. That's exactly what happened a little earlier today. So while I was kind of sitting here pondering the composition, I became really curious about another area. So I kind of scrambled around and found a really cool subject that I'm not going to show you right now, but I'll revisit a little later on in this trip. But I think it would make for a really good photo, and it really shows some of my favorite elements here that I've seen so far in Capitol Reef. And so that too is going to be the type of photo that will be, no clouds in the sky, a little bit more in the afternoon, but just some nice reflected light on the scene I think will make for a really inviting photo that in some ways tells a little bit of the story of this landscape. So I was pretty stoked to find that, pretty stoked to find the photo back behind me there. And seeing as though it's probably gonna be cloudy for the rest of the day, maybe a little bit of rainy, I think I'd be most productive if I spend more time scrambling around and see if I can find some other nice clean subjects. And I'll go ahead and pack up my camera because I won't be taking any photos, at least here today. I need to get some better light. It's a little past lunchtime, and while scouting around, I found this kind of cool little natural sculpture garden here, and all of which are very fragile bits of stone. So I don't want to touch anything because I don't want to break anything. But it's so cool, just all these forms which are just completely naturally created look very purposeful, as though I'm in some sort of sculpture garden at some sort of a museum of art or something along those lines. Really cool area. It's very windy here as well, and there's lots of really fascinating colors, greens, purples, yellows, and I'm just trying to see if I can find some sort of composition to make use of them. And in this wind I wouldn't be able to shoot, but you know, overcast light's not so bad for this sort of stuff. You just don't really want to have any direct light on it. Probably see some of the colors back behind me here. Really cool area. Also really like the way that the greens kind of go along with the oranges and the yellows and the purples. So lots of nice colors that really work well together. Starting to rain a little bit again. Wouldn't mind some sunshine. One thing I learned, the moment I put any sunscreen on, it's gonna rain. It could feel like it's 80 degrees. Put some sunscreen on, cloud comes over, starts to rain. I don't know how that works. I've made my way to the very windy, at the moment, Grande Wash area. And I'm just spending some time back in here, just kind of taking a look at the canyon walls and see if there's any elements that I'd like to capture at some point. I think some people might be bummed to be in a beautiful place and not have ideal weather to take photos. By that I mean wind, so the camera will shake horrendously, clouds that kill the reflected light. But it's all part of being patient and looking at the bright side of things. And in this case, instead I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time scouting around and getting to know the place without necessarily having the pressure of here's my moment right now, I gotta take a photo. And in some ways, I guess this is a little bit like, sometimes I kind of wonder what it'd be like for going to a place like Zion but having never been there before. And I've become so familiar with it over time, so I kind of know where to be in the right place and when. And when I showed up here to Capitol Reef yesterday, I kind of got that feeling. Having this big, wild area that I gotta take some time to get to know. Because it's only really when you get to really know a location that I think you can in any way do it justice, as far as taking photos that kind of capture the feel of being there. It took me many years at Zion, and it's a never-ending process. I'm sure the same will be true here for Capitol Reef.
Throughout the afternoon, the weather alternated between sun, clouds, and rain showers that were heavy enough to seek shelter. Though this can be frustrating when attempting to shoot a large format camera in an unfamiliar location, I enjoyed being out in the elements. My gas tank was getting a bit low and I didn't want to tap into my reserves, so I headed back to town to fuel up. On my way back to the park, I saw a break in the clouds and saw this as the opportunity to take one of the photos I scattered out in the morning. I returned to the location, gathered my gear, and scrambled up to a wonderful tree right at the base of a cliff.
Well, I did not think this was going to happen today. I actually exposed some film. And this is a scene I saw this morning and thought, hey, that would look nice if it was in reflected light. And I'll tell you right now, it's not in reflected light at the moment, but it was a little bit earlier. There's some clouds going over right now that are not only obscuring the sun back on the cliffs where the light would bounce off of to get here, but there's also some clouds up in the sky that are reflecting some light in the scene. So it's a little bit of a drab light right now. But a little earlier, I was able to make 2 exposures of that tree, horizontal composition, and expose 2 sheets of Velvia 50. Originally, I was going to kind of show the whole process of setting up for the photo, of finding a scene, setting up the camera, making the exposure, all that sort of setup. But it's a little hard to do for this because there's a very brief window when I had the reflected light I was going for. But also, I'm in a very precarious position right now, set between 2 big boulders. One tripod leg up on the rock here. The video camera has a very similar setup, so it's a little claustrophobic as far as my working area. I just didn't quite have the ability to concentrate on more than one thing. In this case, I want to get this photo. So this represents the first photo I've taken on this trip, and quite honestly, I didn't think it was going to happen today. A little earlier today, I went over to Torrey to get some gas, and when I was over there, there's cell reception, so I was able to, call my wife, check Twitter, all that, also check the weather app, and basically tomorrow evening, good chance of rain coming in, then all the way through the weekend. So tomorrow will be Wednesday, but all the way through basically Sunday, there's going to be very, very high percentages of rain, which means a lot of this area is going to be off limits. A lot of the washes and stuff, and we'll see how the rain is, but you just don't want to be in those if they're going to be nature's gutter. So I might concentrate on sort of the other side of the park over off the 24. But I'm very happy to have exposed 2 sheets of film today. Did not think that was going to happen. I was actually thinking it would be till probably next Monday or Tuesday that I'd be able to shoot some film. So it's always a good psychological start to a trip when I can get that film exposed. Now I have a little less weight on my shoulders. Well, I will have more weight on my shoulders when I pack this up and head back to my truck, but you know what I mean. It's a bit of a relief to expose the first sheet of film on a trip. Looking forward to dinner. I always got to say that. If you knows, I always say that at the end of each video. Looking forward to dinner, because I am. I'm really hungry.
By the time sunset arrived, the sky was mostly clear, and the west-facing cliffs were bathed in warm light. Up until this moment, I'd only seen Capitol Reef under overcast skies in the late afternoon. Despite being hungry for dinner, I took my time heading back to camp that evening. With a storm on the way, I knew that tomorrow was going to be a much different day. If you love this content and want to help support my journey, you can do so by subscribing to my YouTube channel, telling a friend, or sending a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year with PayPal or Patreon, and depend on the generous support of people like you to produce this ad-free content. For more information on how to support me, please visit the donation section of my website. Thanks in advance for your support.